What's up, everybody? It's the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And today, man, I got a crazy one. This is crazy. So originally, my goal was to do a video on this black guy I knew from the neighborhood in Pacoima who came to prison and got clicked up with the North, right, to some degree. And then my experiences in doing time with him in Salinas Valley. And I'm still going to touch on that first. But in trying to get a little bit more background, I wanted to see if he was still incarcerated, that sort of thing. I did a little research and found out some amazing things, both interesting and just not cool, about his case and what led him to get incarcerated, which then leaves me with questions on how he was able to move, how he moved. But it all makes sense, and I'm gonna try to make this quick. So anyways, here it is. This guy, Lou Morgan, right? Louis C. Morgan. I'm in Salinas Valley on the 270 yard, so on A yard, and it's around 2,000. And I got the keys to the yard. The northerner numbers are low, right? Southern numbers are high. It's a highly active, highly functioning yard, terms that we didn't even really use back then. But it was a righteous level 4 yard in terms of the populations there. And everything was cool, right? And there have been a lot of cleaning house on our end. And so our numbers were even lower than they were when I first came. And these two guys come over from one of the 180 yards. I don't remember if it was C facility or D facility. I'd have to go back and look. But two guys come over, right? Mousy and Lou. And I had gotten a letter ahead of time saying that these individuals were going to come over there and that they were cool and to be embraced, et cetera, right? One of the youngsters from SAC that did a pegada on our yard wound up going to the hole for a little bit and then went to the main line over there on the 180 side. And so he had got back at me to give me a heads up. So here comes this dude, tall black dude, tall, kind of thin, black guy, very dark-skinned, and that's Lou, right? So we come out to yard and him and I are talking and everything checks out with him, right? And I didn't do some very thorough background check on him because he had been around. He was coming from a yard that I knew the people over there, and I knew that to come from that yard and to come from that yard with blessings would mean that the individual was solid. And he was coming from the main line over there. You know, it's not like there was a side trip to the hole or anything. And so he was embraced, right, with minimal review, so to speak. And so he comes, we're talking. I thought it was interesting because I had never met somebody who rolled with the North, who was actually from down south, let alone a black dude from down south. And so we got to talking, we hung out. We had the same status, though he had more seniority, I guess, if you will, in the grand scheme of things in terms of the politicking. And he came and he said, hey, I like the way things are running here. I'm not trying to step on any toes. Keep me in the loop. I definitely want to be involved. And so, keep me plugged in, but just keep doing what you're doing and keep doing it how you're doing it. And I'm just going to kind of watch and observe and counsel. I said, okay, cool, great, right? Mousy got plugged into the COC and that was it. And Lou and I would spend a lot of time together. And he told me that his case involved him. He got a murder case out of the Pacoima area when he was young, and that he had killed some female with a rock, hit her in the head with a rock, and she died and fell off a cliff or something. I don't really think too much of it. Like I said, he got a C number, so figure he came into CDC about 81, right? 81, 82. And that was his first term in prison. And so I got to talking to him like, hey man, how did you get to rocking with us, right? And he identified himself as an hermano, right? As what today would be called a Norteño. Personally, I thought there was a high chance that he would be like a sleeper C, right? So that maybe he was running with the NF, but he was under the radar, because otherwise it didn't really make sense to me. And the way he told the story was, I think he was in FOSA and he used to play handball with folks from the North, right? Because Blacks and Northerners had a kind of mutual understanding, so to speak, just like Southerners and the whites did. So he would play handball and he got to know some Northerners from Northern California. And he kind of liked to get down. He liked the style, he liked the discipline, this and that. And so he chose to become involved. And he had said that early on, he was a sleeper of sorts, but along racial lines, right? So he wasn't able to navigate amongst the blacks, but actually be reporting back to us. And so and that lasted for a while until he got classified as a Northerner. And then his ability to do that on future yards, would change because he'd just be celled up with Northern Mexicans, right? And so, but I was thinking, man, the timeline, the 80s, having a sleeper or a mole or whatever you want to call it, everything just seemed to me like this dude probably got clicked up with some other folks, and he's just not playing that card. It didn't matter to me, but I just found it interesting. And so he stayed on the yard. Everything was cool. Fast forward a little bit, and he was a serious guy, and he played by the rules, right? Operated according to the rules, and struck me as a true believer, so to speak. And so we're on lockdown for something. I don't remember exactly what. There was a lot of removals from every group. There was a lot of violence, but we're on lockdown. And prior to going on lockdown, a Polynesian, I don't remember if he was Tongan or Samoan, had come over here from one of the 180 yards, either C facility or D facility at Slims Valley. And apparently he had gotten into it with a Northerner on that yard, right? Just a fist fight on the yard, right? Get off where you're mad at type stuff, which you don't really do in level 4 prisons necessarily. So he had gone to the hole. Well, they kicked him out from the hole to our yard. And so word had come from the hole, this dude can't be here, right? This poly dude is not going to be allowed to be on the yard. He needs to go. And so we was getting at the others, right? Because he falls within that general group, right? Asians, indigenous folks, Polynesians, they're all others. And so we have been getting into others like, look, you're gonna have to get rid of your guy. And he was big, right? And the rest of the folks in the other car, aside from an indigenous dude that was pretty tall, none of those guys were that big, right? And so I don't know if that was the intimidation. I don't know what the deal was, but they were hesitant to get rid of him. And so we had been in those dialogues around, look, he's gonna go regardless. The question is whether you get rid of him or we get rid of him, but he's gonna go. And so that was still in flux when all of a sudden they hit me up and they say, hey man, you're getting in a bus, you're going to Vacaville. Because I had surgery, right? I had cancer and everything else. So that finally went through and I had no heads up. They came to the door, they was like, hey man, pack your stuff, we'll come get you in like 10 minutes. So I said, okay, cool. I packed up all my stuff. Lou was in a different building than I was. So I had a book and I told the COs as they were escorting me, there's nobody on the yard, it's locked down. I told the COs as they're escorting me, hey man, let me go stop off with my homeboy cell and give him this book, right? I borrowed this book from him, I'm leaving. They said, sure. So I go up to the cell, I give Lou the book, I let him know, hey, I'm dipping. And he's like, we're probably gonna be on lockdown when you come back because the others ain't gonna handle this, so we're gonna have to handle it. I said, cool, have fun, right? I'm going on vacation, I'm going for surgery, see you when I get back. Now I wound up being gone for a few months, getting validated, been in whole months, coming back. So while I'm gone, I catch little whisper, I'm getting little information here and there, visits, a couple little letters, no kites, but like some letters. And basically the best I can put together is Lou orchestrated an attack on the others that was supposed to center around this particular poly dude. And I don't know if he underestimated the response that the others were gonna have. I don't know what went wrong because I wasn't a part of that conversation. I wasn't even there. But he put together something, and needless to say, it blew up in his face. The Northerners just about lost our footing on that yard because of this, which is ridiculous to think that the others, no disrespect to people that program as others at all, right? But to think that the others would eliminate the Northerners or the Southerners or would eliminate any car off of a main line is, for anybody that's done time, it's kind of ridiculous, right? And it was close. It didn't happen, but there was like 3 Northerners left. And there wasn't many to start with. There was only like 2 or 3 left. Lou winds up getting hit. This little dude, Johnny from Sanho gets hit. the poly dude gets hit a couple times, and I think he catered Lou something. Anyways, there's some Asian folks. They knives and razors and karate kicks and D-ball, all kinds of. It was just a cluster mess, right? And I'm like, wow, that's a wreck, but it's not my business. I'm not there, you know. So when I get validated in Vacaville, because I was a med in return, so I didn't actually transfer to Vacaville. It was basically like I was out to the doctor. So I packed up all my property, and my property stayed at Salinas when I went to Vacaville. I thought I was going to be able to take it with me. They said you can't handle property because you're med in return. You're still technically housed in Salinas. So I get validated over there. I go to the hole, and I'm waiting to come back to Salinas because I can't go straight to the SHU program from Vacaville because technically I'm not there. So they send me back to Salinas. I get off the bus. I'm in R&R, and the captain is like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" I saw not. They were saying something at Vacaville, man, but you know how those people are, you know. And he's like, "Well, you never really gave us any problems on this yard here." He goes, "I'm gonna put you back out there and let committee deal with it, but I'm not gonna put you in a hole tonight." I said, "Cool." He puts me back on A yard. It gives me a cellie. My cellie had been there since I was there before. He kind of gives me the rundown. Lou locked it up. He told, he's debriefing, Johnny, all, you know, and apparently most, if not all, the people involved in that incident had rolled over in some form or fashion. And I was like, man, and I was thinking about Lou in particular. Here's a dude that, from my perspective, linked up with us, and I say that in a, you know, a general term, right? But who linked up with this movement because obviously he got exposed to it and was attracted to it. You know, it wasn't a natural reaction to him getting incarcerated, right? He's a black dude from the hood in Pacoima. So he didn't sign up for this from jump. He became involved. And at that point, he'd been down close to 20 years. And so I'm like, man, to have his career end like this, right? After all this time, it struck me as odd, as really odd. But such is life. Weird stuff happens in prison. You never know who you're encountering or why they make the choices that you do. So, you know, I never got to go out of my cell to the yard. You know, next day, my door's red tagged. I can't go out to breakfast. They come and get me for committee, and I go to the SHU, right? And that's the it. So that's the story I was going to tell today, right? A black guy from Pacoima that signs up, rocks with the North to some degree for, you know, many years. I don't know exactly how long. I don't know when he went from, you know, being who he was to being affiliated with the North. But you know, obviously some years, right? It had been a long time. So in preparation of this, I'm looking, I wonder where Lou's at now, right? Is Lou still in prison? He was a lifer, but a lot of lifers have gotten out. So I look it up, and sure enough, Lou's at SATF. And I was like, man, that's a trip, right? And I always remember his name, Louis C. Morgan, and he had a C number. So pretty easy to find him. And I was like, man, I'm curious about his case. Like, hit a girl in the head with a rock in Pacoima and threw her off a cliff. And so I look at his number. I looked at when he picked up his number, and I started looking up cases in Pacoima. Wow, man, what do I find? Lou. So apparently, and those that are from Pacoima and those that follow the supernatural, oddly enough, don't trip, I'm gonna wrap it all in, may be familiar with this. So December 15th, 1980, a nurse named Melanie, and I'm not gonna read the whole article, but a nurse named Melanie Uribe was waiting at a stoplight. Unknown to her, a group of men had noticed the attractive dark-haired nurse and planned to do unmentionable things to her and kill her, right? So they snatch her up, throw her in a truck, abuse her in unmentionable ways, and then beat her to death. And away she goes. So that alone, and it gets crazier, right? Bear with me. That alone, I'm like, there was three of them, right? Lou was 20 at the time. He had a co-defendant, I want to say like Spencer or something like that, that I think was 19, and then there was a juvenile. And so, and in all the articles I read and everything that I read about it, I didn't read any official court transcripts. I looked for appeals involving these people, anything else, that I didn't see anything. But of all the stuff I did read, they lumped them together as these men did this, not one man did this and the other person watched, or two men, but they made it clear these men did this. And so how does a dude who has a charge like that, like a murder and an R, come to prison in the 80s and skate through not only his own people, right? So not only the black car, and I don't know who, if anybody in particular, he was up under at that stage of his prison career, but he gets through that and then rocks with us, right? With the North, who have a fairly rigorous background check, in particular if you want to start getting into the politics. And he was at minimum involved in the politics as a bro. I still think higher. Now, to be very clear, I've talked to people that are from that era and that are from that affiliation, which is not me. I don't talk about NF business. I've never been one, and even if I was, it's not my business, right? It's not for me to talk about. But and I don't know anybody that's heard of him. And so if you did time with them, or you know him, or whatever, man, feel free, hop in the comments and share what you know, or hit me in the DMs and let me know, because I'm just curious, right? And I don't feel bad putting this person's name and stuff out there. Normally, I don't do that with people, but not only because of his case information, but then also, his career is over, and so to me, when your career is over, you don't get the pass of confidentiality, right? That's just how I feel. So yeah, how does that happen? And you would think that the background check part, that the investigation would be even more heightened, because it's not like he's from a neighborhood where all the quote unquote homies know him. He wasn't running around in the streets of Northern California, right? So you would imagine they would look into him even a little bit more. Now, it's not unheard of for people to get passes with stuff like that on their jacket. It's not common, but it's not unheard of. I personally have heard of it more involving those of the utmost status than those who are not, right? There's privileges come with power, right? And so, but I don't know this guy's situation. I don't know, but I do know that he was convicted of these things and he caught a life sentence, and yet this is what he had become. So that threw me off. But wait, it gets more. There gets better. So this lady is tragically killed on December 15th, 1980. But nobody knows what happened to her. They just know she was a nurse at a hospital. She didn't show up for work. So people kind of worried about her. This other woman, Etta Smith, boy. Etta Smith works for Lockheed Martin. For those who don't know, they have a lot of military contracts and that sort of thing. She has Department of Justice credentials at the time, like security clearances. I don't think the highest level security clearances. She worked like in the mailroom or something, but some level of clearances. So she's probably not 100% JCAT. That's the only point I'm getting at. So she works for Lockheed Martin in Burbank in 1980. 2 days after, this lady gets killed, right? Melanie. 2 days after Melanie gets killed or goes missing, she's listening to the radio at work. She hears, hey, police are continuing to search for this nurse. She's missing. She didn't show up to work. If you hear anything about her whereabouts, blah, blah, let us know. We're canvassing. And she has a feeling. Oh, what a feeling, right? And so she's like, I know where she is. I don't know her. I've never met her. I've never heard of her, except this little radio. But this radio segment kind of tickled my fancy, and I know where she's at. and I need to tell somebody about it. So she left and went to the police station. And she tells the LA County Sheriff's Department or whatever. She goes, hey, that girl you're looking for, I know where she is. I don't know her, but I know where she is. I feel like she's talking to me right now. And they're like, yeah, okay, where's she at? And she points to a map and she points out this area of this canyon, right? Let me see if I can find out exactly where it was, but Lopez Canyon, right? So starts pointing out Lopez Canyon. She's like, she's over there. And she got hit in the head and she's dead, right? And they're like, yeah, right. You know, how do you know this? I got a feeling when I listen to the radio. So of course they don't take it very seriously. They said, look, tomorrow morning, we'll send some people out to the area that you pointed out, see if we can find her, okay? That's not good enough. That is not good enough for Etta, right? That's her name, right, Etta? Yeah, that is not good enough for Etta Smith. Etta Smith goes home, picks up some members of her family, right? And goes to the area that she has a feeling that this deceased girl is at, right? Melanie. Goes and tells her family, keep an eye out for something white in the underbrush. Sure enough, her sister, daughter, something, Tina, sees a little nurse's shoe. They see some tire tracks. She touches the tire tracks and it directs her. There's the body right there, right? Melanie Uribe. Wild. So Etta calls 911, right? What many law-abiding citizens would do if they find a dead person on the side of the road. She calls 911. The cops come, they arrest her, right? She's like, I have no idea who this lady is. I never met. I just got a feeling. Oh, what a feeling. I listened to the radio. They're like, yeah, right. You have to know who did it. You have to know somebody who told you, but you have to know something other than, you know, you was listening to the radio and got little bubble guts and picked out where this lady is in this remote area. So they take her down to the station. They strip her out, lie detector, leave her in a holding tank, the whole nine. She's hot, right? She's pissed. I'm trying to do my civic duty and share this gift that I never knew I had. I didn't know I was a psychic, but obviously I am. I'm trying to share it with you. Melanie's talking to me. So she sits there for like 3 days, right? And what gets Lou and his crimies caught up is one of them, I don't know who, one of them went back to the neighborhood in Pacoima and apparently bragged about what they did, which I don't, you know, people are dumb sometimes and brag about hot ones. I don't know who would brag about the unmentionable, but nonetheless, that's what they did. And so they bragged to somebody, that person, you know, put on their neighborhood watch cap, went down to the police department and said, hey man, this person said that they were part of it. The police go get that person, put the screws to them. He gives up the other two. All three of them are like, yeah, man, this is what happened. And through it all, they're investigating and find out Miss Etta has no connection to them. Like the lady ain't connected to nothing. Nothing. Nobody knows her, right? She has nothing. And so there's a chance Miss Etta could be sitting in prison right now on Melanie's murder, absent maybe the art part, but on Melanie's thing, because she knew more than anybody else, but she didn't do it. She had a feeling. And so anyways, once they figure out that she actually has nothing to do with it and whatnot, they let her go. She's mad. She sues the LA Police Department. She wants $750,000. They give her like a little less than 30 racks, which they said was 1 year's salary at the time, because they don't feel like she suffered very much emotional distress. She wasn't that traumatized by being incarcerated. And so that's what she gets. You know, it's like 7, 8 years later, she gets paid a little $30,000. But if you look it up, look up Melanie Uribe, right? Or look up Etta Smith, psychic. I think that's her name, right? Etta Smith, is that what it said? Yeah, Etta Smith. Then you will see articles upon articles. CNN, Nancy Grace, who just got the most annoying voice of any living thing in the world. Unsolved Mysteries, all the paranormal shows, everything else. You know, Psychic solved murder, went to jail for it. And it's a little bit of clickbait because she didn't actually solve it. What solved it was these fools telling on themselves. But she found the body before, you know, days before they had any idea where she was. So anyways, this is a little bit outside of my normal content, but not much. I talk about prison. I've been there. And I talk about the streets. I also talk about relationships and health and legal stuff and education and mental health and spirituality, yada, yada, yada. So check out the channel, man, if it's your first time here. This is kind of a low production moment for this video, but I wanted to get it out to you guys today. It's a Friday. I hope you enjoy your weekend and help others move in excellence. Be a homie. You know, that's what we do here at the Hangout. If it's something you're interested in, I encourage you to subscribe, like, hit the little bell notification so you see what else I drop. And see me on Instagram, man, TheHOMIEhangout. All right, you guys, have a blessed one.